swans. This is the subject of our meeting today. Swans are birds, of course. You will see in a second how they look like. And follow them from Taimyr in Russian Arctic to Slimbridge, which is a nature reserve established by WWT. We'll learn later what's this in United Kingdom. They are swans. If you look at pictures, we can see in Europe actually 4 major species of swans. On the left side, top corner is the most Polskie. You can see this bird everywhere, actually, in parks, sometimes in very big gardens with small ponds. They nest very close to human settlements. They're not afraid of us, generally. Black is quite a tricky species. It's to Europe from Australia, but it was brought by the men to keep in captivity as a kind of bird to show how they look like. See the bird escaped actually to the wild. In the Western Europe, you can see bird nesting also in the wild. In Poland, for example, we see very often this bird, and usually it comes to Poland from Germany. Down swan, we see whooper swan, which is also quite a common bird, but Arctic. It's a typical Arctic species, nesting in the Arctic. The picture is taken in Icelandic tundra. And on the left-hand side, the whooper swan is Bewick swan. That's our subject of our meeting today. Bewick swan is very similar to this on the right-hand side, which is whooper swan. But Bewick swan nests mostly in Russian tundra, Arctic. The general map. So before we see the map, let's have a look at the bird itself. You will see black and yellow the colors on their beak and head, which are quite distinctive. How did it start, and why we are talking about Bewick swan? We observe Bewick swan is declining rapidly in Europe because in 1995 we had 20,000 birds of Europe during the wintering time, which you see 15 years later, we have only 18,000 of these birds. Nowadays, we suppose the number is much lower again. So some scientists from the WWT, which is Wildfowl and Wetland Trust in the UK, tracked the bird from Russia to United Kingdom to see what's going on with their population. Why is it declining so rapidly? Started from tundra, which looks this way. They followed the birds parachutes, motor parachutes. And we can see the routes of migrating birds in different colors, and blue color is the route of people following birds, flying just after the birds. You will see there is a very big dot on the map, yellowish or yellowish color, showing the area how the bird migrates. And in different colors show those birds that were equipped with satellite transmitters. This way we could follow them exactly on their route. The map is very similar to the previous one. We added, you will see different colors, mostly orange and red, showing how ground support team followed people who fly over after the swans on the parachutes. You see a very important thing that following with cars, people may stop everywhere. People may go to Moscow, like you can see on the map, somewhere in Denmark. there's a problem. They can found everywhere, stations, hotels, restaurants to feed. But they usually take the shortest possible route because they need to save their energy. On the way, they will need to search for their own restaurants, petrol stations, and hotels, which are in fact wetlands. As they have enough wetlands on their flyway, they can survive and go to their wintering grounds. This looks the equipment of people with birds in the air. They sit with ends and then flew for several hours a day after that. People are dependent on different winds and weather conditions than birds. Swans, which are very big birds, can fly during rain, even fall. However, people usually could follow them only during very good sunny weather. Ended their trip in Slimbridge. The bird of Slimbridge Reserve. What is important? When you look carefully, you will see that it's surrounded by fields, which is very hostile to birds and to animals. Large patches of land full of water ponds, full of different vegetation, make migratory birds stop there when they can feed and rest before going further. Come back to birds itself. Sorry. Of the range of these birds is Arctic North, Russia. In the past, it was also observed in Scandinavia, in Finland and Norway. Wintering grounds are quite far away. On the left side, which is in the west, you can find wintering grounds in Denmark, Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, and in the United Kingdom and Ireland. On the right-hand side, Chile, in the Far East, you can find wintering grounds in Japan and China. Concentrate on the wintering grounds in Western Europe, as we are living here in this area, and it's very important for us to know how the birds behave and how they live in our regions. It's nesting in Arctic tundra. It's a very shallow pools with abundant submerged vegetation and a grove of shoreline vegetation. Of course, please imagine that the vegetation in tundra is like here in Europe, in Central Europe or in Western Europe. We have very high, very reed beds sometimes along the shore. However, tundra area looks completely different. Again, the picture that I already showed you, but the typical area of breeding of beautiful Bewick swans. You will see a lot of different bigger lakes, very shallow ones, surrounded by small pools, wetlands, peat bogs, and low vegetation, but enough for these birds to nest there. Yes, they usually search for snakes, which is, let's say, high ground or of lakes, when they build their nests of sedges and mosses found in tundra. And such a location of the nest provides quite a visibility, and birds can just watch for possible predation from Arctic foxes, for example. Building the nests, they use sedges and mosses, but for several years, coming back to the same nest, they usually refurbish it with their own feathers. The female takes her own feathers and try to make some kind of lining to make it soft and actually warm for eggs. Because the bird can sit on the bare ground even, her eggs needs to be kept in warm to provide better hatch. Before they build a nest, they need to get married, let's call it. The marriages because during the observation by specialists from Wetfall and Wetland Trust, we noticed that the bird stays for a very, very long time together. Their marriages are nearly permanent. Sir Peter Scott, who established Wildfowl and Wetland Trust, observed birds for 7 years and didn't spot any divorce during this time, which means all the time the same pairs stayed together. Before they make bonds, marriages, sometimes it takes 3 to even more years. Female and male decide to be together. Now let's have a look at some numbers, which may be strange at the first glance, because in average, the swan marriage lasts about years. I mentioned before that it was nearly permanent, and now suddenly we talk about 4 years. Why is that? It's mostly because a lot of them die, across simply. They are killed by poachers, sometimes by hunters. Others cannot reach wintering grounds and because of hunger. Some are killed, have collisions with power lines. So although the birds stay together near life, their marriages last several. It's quite sad because it also influences very strongly the possibility of increasing the population. Marriage lasts only 4 or 5 years. It's sometimes impossible to get enough young birds to make the population stronger. The example how it's difficult for birds to mate, to get together, is the female called Saturday. She got named Saturday, and the scientists from Slimbridge noticed that after she lost her partner, it took her nearly 13 years to find another one. She's single. We don't know why, of course, because we cannot talk to birds. They cannot answer us. So it's quite a guess. Linia and Luburnum lived together for 21 years. And also that Offset, a male observed in the Slimbridge Reserve, in his 21 years of visits, he had 7 female partners. So sometimes male behave a little bit free than females. Of course, how do we know that birds fly together? How do we know that we observe exactly the same pairs? 2 methods of observations. One is the patterns of their beaks. You notice the yellow color and black. This is unique for each bird. So we can together Slimbridge using binoculars or telescopes. Specialists may recognize each bird separately, giving their own names. The second way of monitoring swans is satellite transmitters attached to their back. They can fly, and from the satellite signal comes to the Slimbridge Reserve Center, where scientists may follow each bird with such a transmitter step by step. Of marriage of a pair of Bewick swans. And we talked about marriages, we talked about nesting. Unfortunately, also death is a part of birds. The longest living Bewick swan is known from Slimbridge. It died at the age of 36, but a little bit, let's say, ill, and stayed in the Slimbridge Reserve for many years. And this is why it was safe and well actually fed and kept. brimstone, they live 26 and 29 years in the wild, which is very important because staying alive in the wild for so many years for birds, it's really something unique. But in average, Bewick swans live only 5.5 years. So now compare the longest living bird that we know, in 36 years, average birds living in the wild live only for 5 years. Is there a reason why the birds are declining? The very death rate is really among young birds. No, let's say they don't die. They are killed by poachers and hunters because they are not afraid of people. Young birds really also have a lot of collisions with power turbines and power lines. As usually they travel in bigger flocks, however, still it's not enough to survive. I mentioned about restaurants, petrol stations, and restaurants for birds with wetlands. These are shrinking. It's great effect if we have such wetlands like on the end of the right-hand side. These are marshes in Poland. Such wetlands may provide for birds perfect places during their flyway to stop, feed, and invest. I mean birds. I said us to feel like birds for a while, and illegal shooting we observe is now one of the best problems. Many birds, not only swans actually, swallow also small lead shots, small balls of lead from shooting as well as these so-called stomach stones. Such small stones usually help birds like waterfowl, ducks, geese, and swans to bring food in their stomach. It's necessary actually. So they will collect different small stones from the riverbed or pond bed. And on the stones, usually they found also something which stays after shoot birds. As I mentioned, these lead shots. A shell that is used by hunters contains sometimes over 500 of lead. Many of them are collected by birds and so swallowed, as I mentioned, these stomach stones to help them feed. And unfortunately, it causes a lot of and may cause of a very painful and long-lasting death among these birds. Birds that swallow a lot of lead and that are shot, they cannot walk, move their heads, they cannot feed, and cannot fly. The biggest problem for Bewick swans and actually many tundra swans and other tundra birds, because people perform a lot of hunting, and some hunters that usually hunt during the misty days or very cloudy days cannot distinguish birds and actually kill Bewick swans. And accidentally, because the bird is protected from to United Kingdom across 11 countries of migration of their birds. But still, the legal protection is not enough to help the birds and to make them survive. Poisoning is a very serious problem, and avoided only by using different type of ammunition and simply learning people to not shoot these birds. That follows the birds that I mentioned at the beginning has also quite a strange experience in Russia, in tundra. We reached one small village. There was the meal, and one hunter, local hunter, brought actually two killed Bewick swans, supposing them that he will prepare for them some kind of food of these Bewick swans. For the team of travelers was quite shocking situation because the bird is protected. but the people living in tundra usually don't know it. They have to shoot every type of animal to survive, to make their living. And we'll look at whether they're happy and safe hunting. They usually collect among other birds, usually with geese. We can observe them with geese, and such flocks sometimes may be up to 100,000 birds in one place. 100,000 of birds, not some, just swans, of course, but also geese and ducks. It is very important when we talk about to such birds like Bewick swans, and not only Bewick swans, but Arctic birds. In the Arctic. Sometimes we talk that we can feel it here in our countries where we live, in countries. However, the biggest problem is in the Arctic. Actually, that we know that Arctic is a rather flat area where this bird's nest. Global warming will cause very soon very substantial change in their habitat. First of all, higher temperature, so that the vegetation will change. The small ponds that we saw at the beginning of this picture will all grow with higher vegetation and will be not suitable for Bewick swans anymore. Bewick swan needs to, as I recall you, rather flat area, nests on small hammocks, on small elevation of land, to feel safe and to see possible predators coming to their nests. When they start to overgrow higher vegetation, the birds will have no places to nest. That effect may cause not only higher, amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, it's also important and very dangerous in the habitats. When that changes for birds, it will also change for us, for our health, and will also impact our economy and our everyday life, definitely. Look at this temperature change. According to the NASA scientists, the temperature in the Arctic rises permanently. You will see the red solid line showing the trend of rising temperature in the Arctic, 1880 to over 2000. Among the last years, you will see that the rise of temperature is quite significant. The black dots and the black lines causes, let's say, yearly or anomalies. Some years may be very cold, sometimes may be very hot, but generally we need to always observe a long trend, like here shown on the red line. Situation is a very similar chart. However, this shows the white line shows the tendency up to 2040 and further. You will see the temperature in the Arctic may rise very rapidly. It will definitely ice melting and problems for countries that are very low, lying at the sea, especially European countries like the Netherlands, Denmark, part of also Polish coast. We can find underwater in 2040, deeply overloaded with water. As the rise temperature, the mean temperature in the Arctic. Look at this red line, show average from the years 1957 to 2002. The temperature shows just an average. However, in 2016, last year, we can see was very, very hot in the Arctic. Again, there are a lot of different anomalies because the dark red line, as you see, so smooth, is jumping up and down in different months. However, generally, you will see that in November, the temperature was very, very high in the Arctic compared to this what happened in the years 1957 and 2002. As a result, it causes of ice, Arctic ice. This is going down, but it doesn't mean that it's better. It's worse because the chart shows how extent of Arctic ice, Arctic sea ice, is melting, how fast, in square kilometers. The amount of Arctic ice is going down rapidly. It means, as I mentioned before, melting ice, higher water level, and in the future also it will mean that that we could observe at images of Bewick swans may disappear after water, underwater. So many of these small ponds lying on a very flat tundra may simply disappear, and observe the very shallow sea in this region of many different pools located among tundra vegetation. What to change to help? There are different, actually, 4 major issues that to be changed to help the birds, especially Bewick swans. But we need to remember also that helping Bewick swans, we help also other Arctic birds. In the Arctic, we have a lot of different hundreds of other species there, and then fly across Europe, to West Europe or to Africa, and helping one bird like this distinctive Bewick swan, we can help also to many other species. Without the threat, I mentioned that poaching and hunting the biggest problem, and why, and of lead poisoning. This is why we need to act against lead ammunition and try to change lead ammunition to steel ammunition. It's possible, and in some countries, some European countries, hunters already use different types of ammunition. However, still in Russia, Poland, Germany, and some other countries like France, for example, and UK, a lot of ammunition, lead ammunition is still used. So important to cooperate with hunters, with the governments, to talk with them, and to try to, let's say, convince them to change the ammunition type. Why they don't want to change it? Well, it's quite difficult to say because on the one hand, they are actually accustomed to use this ammunition. It's much cheaper than the ammunition made of steel. The economic reason is one of the most important for them. Some hunters also told us that ammunition made of lead is better shooting, better, let's say, achievement in shooting birds, which for us is not an excuse, and even worse. Let's jump to the third point of this slide: pro-hunting ban for migratory birds. We try to do it in Poland during a lot of different campaigns to stop shooting any birds. Shooting for birds has no influence on economy, country's economy. We cannot say that by shooting birds, hunters or can get better. Absolutely not. Shooting is only for fun and for, let's call it tradition, very bad tradition actually. This is why when we stop shooting birds, nothing will happen actually to hunters. Will not collapse. Country's economy also not collapse. So there is no point to shoot birds any longer. This is why we all show the government and hunters that they shoot bigger animals that may cause damage in crops, in agriculture. It's different than shooting birds because, of course, in a very big flock may cause some damage to crops. However, there are different methods of thinning birds, keeping them away from agricultural land. And we think it's just not enough. However, still in Poland, for example, hunters are not very, let's say, open to implementing ban migratory birds hunting. And we try to it on a level of European Union to make sure that migratory birds may feel safe in our countries. Especially, we talk about Bewick swans. The swans migrate across 11 countries. Each country has a different legislation, different type of methods of hunting, different ways of keeping, maintaining habitats for migratory birds. Bewick swans have a lot of problems during such flights with stopovers. Additionally, we mentioned global warming effect. We need to work against it. One of these, many of these ways is work locally and globally. Working globally usually comes to the government and to develop their economy, produce electricity, how factories work, how cars, either electric cars or use traditional petrol. But on a local level, we work for decreasing the global warming effect by changing our behavior. One is just using wise electricity, using cars instead of driving our own car all the time. We can use public communication more often, which is more effective sometimes, and also producing just much less carbon dioxide. I think that which is very important to protect birds, especially migratory swans, is protection of their habitats. Habitats across all 11 countries when they migrate. To provide for these birds, we need a lot of wetlands. In Poland, we have several such places, national parks mostly, and nature reserves, which can stop and feed. Also, fish ponds are very important in Poland. However, we observe also that in many countries, especially West European countries, wetland appeared. Let's have wetlands that we have in Poland, for example, Bierze marshes. Now, countries, think about wetlands in your countries and look at images. If you have similar places, there's perfect for birds. These places are actually, as you see, human settlements are only at the edge of wetlands. Enough water during the migration time. It was exactly, the images were taken exactly during the migration time of swans across Poland. And these pictures were taken by our staff traveling with the team of Britons who followed the Bewick swans. So such places, such wetlands mixed together with wild forests located remotely from local human settlements provide birds best conditions for stopover and take a rest. This is what we can call, as I mentioned before, restaurants, petrol stations, hotels for birds. Such ones where birds may feel safe. Not only birds, you can see also a lot of different other animals in such places like moose, elks, are roaming very free in the bigger areas. So protection of wetlands is one of the important and biggest challenge in nowadays. Has for migratory birds that migrate from the Arctic to West European countries. They need such places. Only very big, vast areas like here that we see also of pictures. Also, they need smaller ponds. If possibilities to help the birds by protecting small ponds in your communities, small wetlands. It's also important. Very often feed on agricultural fields. For the night, they come to wetlands to recover there, to take the rest and to fly further. Let's look once again at the image of the bird and the route that it has to from wintering grounds in Russia to Flambridge, Denmark, and Germany. It's 11 countries, 7,000 kilometers. Birds flies the 7,000 kilometers twice a year, going from West Europe to Russia for Britain, 7,000 kilometers, and back from Russia to West European countries to wait here among us and recover to go further, come to Russia after winter. There is still declining. Will it depend only on us if we can help to maintain proper habitats for these birds and stop causing lead poisoning. For your presence, if you have questions, please you can ask them on chat, or I think on chat is the best way to take questions. Thank you very much.